All right. I will call to order our Board of Trustees of the Batavia Public Library District regular meeting for 15 August 2017. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will start with the roll call, please.
Okay, Blodgett? Gulata? Here. Beechman?
Here.
Garrett? Here. Enders?
Here.
Kenzie?
Here.
Smith? Here.
All right. Comments from the audience? Seeing none, we will move to approve the consent agenda. On that, we have our minutes from our public hearing and a regular meeting on the 18th of July, our expenditures report, resolution certifying the 2016 to 2017 Illinois Public Library Annual Report, which is Resolution 2017-008, a resolution declaring selected library furniture, furnishings, equipment, and supplies to be surplus property and authorizing the disposition of surplus property, which is Resolution 2017-009. We have job descriptions for Assistant Circulation Services Manager and Electronic Services Coordinator. Strategic plan, the objectives for Project Year 3, and that's it. Does anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Okay. I will do we need a voice vote then for the consent agenda, or roll call, I'm sorry.
You need a motion.
Oh, I need a motion, sorry, thank you. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Trustee Henders?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Smith. All right, so if you do a roll call for us, please.
Blodgett? Gulata?
Yay.
Beechman?
Aye.
Garrett?
Aye.
Enders?
Aye.
Kenzie?
Aye.
Smith? Aye.
Okay. Moving right along, I now need a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move.
Thank you.
I second.
Thanks. Motion by Smith and second by Colada. We can just do a voice vote for this one, right? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Financial reports. Move right to Joe.
You have a preliminary fiscal year 17 report, just a bit under $60,000 that will be added to the general fund's reserves, and that's after the transfer of the $259,900 to the special reserves. That number might change slightly. The auditors are reviewing a document I gave them regarding personnel expense, so we might be able to include into that last year, which would be a better year to absorb it, actually. So, any questions? Actually, the auditors were here preliminary a week ago, and they'll be back in the second week of September for McCoy. So,
Okay.
Do you want to say anything about this?
I gave each of the finance committee members a copy of the Illinois Funds report, and I have two others. I can photocopy and send them to anybody that wants it, but it's what the composition of the Illinois funds are for all of our investments. So we got about $4 million in there for all the reserves and our tax revenues, actually. But the growth in income has been kind of extraordinary based on what it's been in the past. So they're doing something right.
Nice. Okay. Any questions for Joe? On our financial reports? Okay. President's report. I don't really have anything to report. George, you're going to mention Pachacacha?
Sure.
Okay. Then I will let you mention that. Good news or comments from the board? Does anybody have anything? Very good. All right, moving right on. Correspondence and communications. The only thing in here is on that, so I'll let you talk about that.
Okay. Did everyone, there was one of these in each of your packets, I presume?
Yes.
For the folks at home. Our next Pachacacha night, Batavia, the theme of which is Moon Shadow, is Thursday in honor of the eclipse that's coming up. Thursday, August 17th, day after tomorrow, at the Batavia VFW. Doors open at 5:30. Show starts at 7. got a nice lineup this time, so if you're free that night, I encourage you to attend.
Excellent.
Several of you, I think, have been there before.
Yeah.
And Joanne has presented.
Excellent.
So thank you.
All right, thanks. So directors and librarians reports. So you're still up?
Light report this time. The total number of unique visitors to the website actually went up 2.4% compared to last year, so something is happening there. I have no idea why something is happening there, but it did change. The slight downward trend we've been seeing for a while in things like visitor count and circulation is actually replicated by most of the libraries in Illinois, in the Chicagoland area. So we're part of that ongoing trend. And I also mentioned the Chocolate Shot Night in this. So there's not a whole lot that I have in the written report this month.
Okay.
I'm sure that Joanne and Stacy will have more.
All right. Joanne, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My report this month is kind of a recap of Summer Reading Club as well as a recap of the fiscal year in youth services. And just to pull a few things out of that report, Summer Reading Club, you may remember we switched from registration and then starting check-in to a registration check-in process. So that changed a little bit about the data that we collected for Summer Reading Club. But we still had 1,250 active participants in Summer Reading Club tracking and reading accomplishment. And while this was a little over a 5% decrease in the active numbers, those active participants actually did a whole lot more than past year's active participants. So over 86% actually continued on from level 1 to level 2. We have 3 different reading levels in our Summer Reading Club. And actually just about 3/10 under 70% actually completed the whole program. So those are excellent numbers for a reading club. So we're very happy with that. All in all, the reading club and the more than 90 programs that we had downstairs in youth services really were well received, and I think it brought a lot of Batavia children into the library over the summer. I'm going to send around kind of the last 2 posters for Summer Reading Club this year, and they're highlighting our Explore Day, which was a Gadgets and Gizmos Day, and we had gotten some Google glasses, and children were swimming with the sharks, and we're in a shark cage underwater for a little while, so that was pretty exciting, as well as doing some coding mice and some other activities with our Gadgets and Gizmos Day, our Yarn and Tale, and Mr. Freeze. And that was a fun experience. We unfortunately hit the same night as the band, choir, youth concerts in Batavia. And so we have made a note to avoid that for next year, because that took a lot of not only our families, but our volunteers for the evening. But those who were able to be there at Fermilab, I think, had a great time. Our last summer event this year, it's hard to believe that school starts tomorrow, but our last summer event for the year is actually next Monday, because the children are off school next Monday, and we're having our solar eclipse party down in youth services. And Batavia is one of only 7,000 libraries across the United States that receive free glasses, solar eclipse glasses from NASA. And that really, we received those because of the application that we submitted for the NASA at the Library grant and the program that we had committed to at that time. We took that program out of the grant, and when we submitted our application to get free glasses, you had to commit to a program. And we said, well, we're committed to this anyway if we get that grant, and so let's forge forward. Now, we didn't get the grant, but because of the program we had planned for the grant, we were able to get these glasses. So we're planning a program. We get calls on pretty much all the time. We're getting calls about glasses. The adult reference desk is getting calls about glasses. But we're hoping for a great event, and we're hoping for sunshine so that we can actually see it. And we're planning for a potentially pretty big crowd here at the library. We'll be giving out glasses beginning at 12:30 to program participants while supplies last. So we'll see how long they last.
And all the people that weren't calling the two other desks were calling circulation, because all the staff in circulation today, with their heads were reeling over the number of telephone calls asking about the glasses.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people calling who would like the glasses so they could take them, to other viewing locations. But we really had very early on, right from the get-go, had decided that we wanted to have our glasses for our participants in our program. So we actually had some patrons from St. Charles call today, because St. Charles and Geneva are both off of school but not doing programs, and asked if they could thought it was awesome that we were doing something, and asked if they could bring a picnic lunch and be in the reading garden during the eclipse and have a picnic lunch in the reading garden. And we said, well, if you can fit in the reading garden with your lunch, give it a try.
How are you going to kind of maintain the 12:30? Because if it's that popular, I feel like there's going to be a line out the door at 12:15.
Well, we're going to hand them out downstairs.
Okay.
And we have already started to map out our snake line through the shelving of youth services, and you will probably not be able to, we will not be able to answer questions, and you probably will not be able to get a book off the shelf.
Yeah.
Because we have anticipated the lines going up and down the shelving. So yes, we're going to put tape arrows down. It'll be pretty unique down there. I also just wanted to mention the 53 middle school volunteers who volunteered for us this summer. Over 400 hours they donated to the Youth Services Department, and we really do appreciate their assistance. We had a great group of volunteers, and we're actually calling a few of them to see if they could come in Monday and help with our solar eclipse party. But we're hoping that a lot of them come back for our school year volunteers too. They were just a great group of kids. Just a few things to highlight from the fiscal year that happened. We launched our 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. It seems like a long time ago, but it was only September. And we had to date we have 253 preschoolers who are reading books to try to get 1,000 in before kindergarten. And we already have 13 children who have read 1,000, who have had 13 children have had 1,000 books read to them since they started. Most of them started pretty much right from the day one. We hosted for the first time this year an American Queen and established a new circulating big books collection. We had some staff changes this year, including welcoming Jen Connon and Carol Maddock. And our program attendance, our group study room usage, and our junior volunteer hours all increased during this fiscal year. So that was great stats to be able to give to you. And I will say that some of our program assistants, program attendance is due in part to some of the passive programs. That was a new thing on the per capita grant this year, asking for passive programming, because a lot of libraries are starting to do that. And our observation stations fall into that category, where we have something ongoing all month long. It's an interactive thing with children. And right now, if you have not been down there, we were trying to save them for September, but we had to get started on them early. We have monarch butterfly eggs, caterpillars, and chrysalis downstairs in youth services in various stages. And it is awesome. It is such an exciting, we have staff coming down, we have grown-ups coming down to look at them, and the children are just mesmerized. You literally can see the caterpillars grow, and you can hear them crunching as they eat. And it's a pretty exciting thing. So we're hoping that the current group that we have, we anticipate the chrysalis hatching in about another week or two, week and a half, and we may be collecting more eggs, but to keep them going, but through the month of September. But they will be monarch butterflies, and so it's very exciting. And the children are really enjoying it, and the learning opportunities that are happening with the milkweeds and it's just really great to see. So I'm very proud of the YS staff and kind of their creativity and dedication and what they're offering. And it's really an honor to be a part of this library and the things that are happening here. And I just have to make a little comment. We have a family who's been a very regular user to the library and is going to be moving out of the area for a couple of years, and came in, and we had just set up the butterflies. And they were all eggs and little caterpillars munching away. And she looked at me and she goes, you know, this is one thing we're really going to miss. This is such an awesome place that this will be the thing that we miss the most from moving away. So that really made us feel good downstairs. So thanks for giving us the opportunity to do that. And any questions? I'm happy to come down and see our butterflies.
Yeah.
They're very excited. Well, not butterflies yet, but very cool.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
Joanne.
Thank you very much.
All right. Hi, Stacy.
I've got a couple of announcements. Summer Reading Club, this year our numbers were almost exactly the same as last year. So close I had to double check to make sure I wasn't transposing numbers. So we had 254 adults and teens who completed the program, and they read 2,774 books. So very nice numbers and really nice participation rates, and lots of people coming in, picking up books, reading them, and turning in their reading logbooks. Looking forward to October, we're starting up some of our regular programming again, and on October 16th, which is a Monday evening, 7 o'clock, we'll be hosting a new Lyceum Lecture Series event. Stanley Arnold, who's a history professor at NIU, is going to be presenting Carrying the Torch. He's in the process of writing a book about African American athletes who participated in the Olympics in some of the early Olympic years and the way that they contributed to the civil rights movement. So we're looking forward to that presentation on October 16th, 7 o'clock. One other thing that just happened earlier this week, we offered a behind-the-scenes tour for a book club that meets here in the library. It's not our library book discussion group, it's an outside group that uses this room. They book it for their book club meetings. And they had come to the desk and asked if they could have a tour to learn a little bit about how things work and how books move through the system. So I talked with Carrie and Pam and Mary, one of our interlibrary loan clerks, to see if they would participate in that, and they were glad to do that. So we provided a brief tour, about half hour, 45 minutes for this group, and each spoke to them briefly about our role and the process of the books coming in. Mary is one of the interlibrary loan clerks who brings in multiple copies of books for our local book clubs, and they were delighted to see the woman who works the magic behind the scenes to bring those books in for them so that they don't need to buy every single book that they read throughout the year. So that's a service that we're going to be offering to some of the other book clubs that we know about who use that same service. And we'll be inviting them in to see if they want to have a brief behind-the-scenes tour, and we'll talk with them a little bit about the way that the library works behind the scenes. Any questions?
All right, thanks, Stacy. Okay, committee and official reports, or official representation reports. Standing Committee on Facilities.
We met and we were charged with the task to review the years and the projects that had been identified per year due to the fact that we were considering doing parking lot. And so we did make the decision to go ahead with the parking lot in year one, which, well, the committee is going to recommend that, which means we have to move that project from year two, which is, should I go through this or do you want to?
I would have the main discussion
Okay.
under that.
Okay, you can talk about it later.
Okay.
But that was the majority of our discussion, was on the parking lot and how to deal with the various projects.
Great. Thank you. Finance and Outreach did not meet. Services Committee did meet. We talked about the new job descriptions that were on the consent agenda. We talked a little bit about the strategic plan and the objectives for year 3, and how we wanted to kind of follow that. We really the big thing for the next year is kind of our migration to Swan, and focusing on that, and then focusing on our outreach. And then we talked about potential email accounts for trustees, but I don't think that's something we got to decide. That's not something we really need right now. The process we have right now is working. So that was about it for services. Batavia Library Foundation. Diane's not here. Is any? Do you know?
Yes, because I also sit on that board. And,
Right.
the foundation did meet on August 3rd and elected former trustee Kara Schuster to be a regular member of that board. She was formerly the trustee board representative and enjoyed the work so much that she volunteered to be elected as a regular member, which she is. And then she was elected to be secretary treasurer, so she's not, no dust gathering on Kara at this point, I guess. And then quite a bit of discussion about the Bulldogs on Leash project, which had a kickoff event last Friday evening, and things are well underway for that project in terms of the 3 different foundations selling sponsorships and recruiting artists and such. So very exciting.
Excellent. Okay. Friends did not meet, right, Joanne?
No, they did not.
Okay. Link, George?
Link changed its regular meeting date to a time when 3 of us on the board, including myself, could not meet. So I was not there, and I think it really was just continuing some of the details toward the dissolution, which will take place next year. So.
Okay. BATV?
2 things. This time of year is very much involved with getting ready for the football season. It's a major fundraiser for BATV, so that spent quite a bit of time going over some of the posters and visuals that will be available. Second thing was mentioned a little bit by Stacy. There'll be a presentation probably in the next few months on windmills. And so that's one of the things that's being planned. That's pretty much it.
Excellent. Okay. All right, next item is item 13, the parking lot. We have a, would you like to present that, or George, or?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Fair enough. No,
Okay.
I'll cut off the thing after.
As Joanne was saying, from the committee reports, the facilities committee met and reviewed, first reviewed in some length the, I guess it didn't get stable, at least mine did. Reviewed the capital asset plan, and for that committee meeting, I had done some evaluation on the first 3 years, and as a result of the review by the facilities committee, I updated the chart that's in your packet. It basically breaks down all the projects are identified in the first 3 years with some notes. Some I had recommended moving to different years. Some doing additional research on the projects themselves. Made some corrections which I've given to BTC, such as the backflow preventer for the domestic water service. It turns out the city of Batavia's building code, which is based on the 2014 Illinois Plumbing Code, does not require backflow prevention devices on domestic water service. It does on practically every other kind of water service. So we are and have been in compliance with that. There was a recommendation for stove hoods in the kitchen off of the founder's room and the staff room downstairs, which we on the staff level consider an extremely low priority. These are not commercial kitchens. The ranges are very seldom used. It seems like a lot of money for stoves and ranges that haven't been used that much. And temperature control system, and I'm still waiting to hear back from BTC. I raised the question of clarification, because there was some work that the subcontractor didn't identify when we did do some upgrading in 2011, 2012, and I'm still waiting to hear back from them on how that might affect the recommendations. But we did a substantial amount of work in terms of what we considered an upgrade to the system at that time, so we need to see how that fits into their recommendations. The biggest thing that on the staff level that we recommended deferring to year 4 or later was the facade work, which totals $950,000, not counting any professional design fees and things like that. For 2 reasons. One is we don't have the money for that. That's the biggest reason. And the second reason is that it's not currently a hazard in terms of water penetration, that sort of thing. The potential is there as time goes by, I think, because the water testing that was done with high pressure water showed that it was possible for leaks to take place in certain places. But when they opened up walls during some physical testing a few years ago, there was no evidence of water inside the walls. So we feel that it's not an emergency or a safety health situation at this point. We don't want to lose track of it, but we don't need to be focused on that right now. So I think most of it's self-explanatory. I'm probably explaining something you've already read. But all things being equal, it seemed logical this fiscal year to design and bid out the asphalt pavement work. And I did get, we've talked about this I think at the last board meeting, a contractor estimate that was between a low of $2 and a high of $3 per square foot, which is I think a relatively real number. The number that BTC put in was, of course, a very conservative number based on standard market pricing for cost estimators. But I think we can get that work done for less than that. And so that was the analysis. Anything else? Am I overlooking anything, Joanne?
Well, just that estimate that George Beck came in at like 172, quite a bit less than the 265 that was budgeted for that.
Okay.
So moving that over to year 1 seems to make sense. The only other thing that I'd like to mention is that we moved the self-check units from year 1 to year 2. And we spoke at length about that. Because what came up in the discussion was that in order to do that, one of the things that you would anticipate doing is making room for them in the circulation area.
Clarification, it was the phase 3, the automatic materials handlers that we
Okay, sorry.
we bumped, but we're not in a position at this point. The RFID team is in fact has work to do, and we think it's more logical for year 2 that the tagging has to begin before that.
But we did request that we get some dollar figures on what that would entail to clear out room, to make room for that, because that's not included in the capital estimate plan.
So nothing's changing relative to the self-check units? That arrow pointing to year 2 is?
No, that's correct. Yeah, it was phase 3 were recommended deferring to year 4 or beyond.
130.
But the self-check units we think is an important part, and we have an end-of-life notice on those for the first half of 2019, so I think it's important to do that.
So we're not losing ground though by moving into that?
No, the RFID team, which is led by our circulation services manager, will be bringing a second report or a follow-up report to the services, facilities committee. I guess it would be facilities committee, not services committee. Following up on his first report in the spring, that will respond to some questions that were raised by the committee, and at that point we hope to sort of start clearing the path to seek approval on purchasing tags and beginning a tagging project. So we really have to begin that, and as we complete that, that's the time to be buying the equipment and things to use that equipment. So we won't lose any ground at all. I think it'll fit nicely in the flow of the work.
I guess one thing too on that is that while the existing equipment has the end of life where they no longer support it, it's not hopefully going to die the day after the warranty ends.
No.
Although it seems many things do. But there will be companies that will be able to repair those with spare parts that are available. They just
Correct.
To get those secondhand maybe. I think by moving that, I think we can push that out a little bit. I would agree.
So that discussion took place.
Okay.
And I wanted to update everyone on that discussion. And then the discussion moved on to the proposal from BTC, which because of the cost of design and bidding out and overseeing the actual construction for this kind of a project, it does add cost to the estimate. So, which is indicated on the sheet I gave you, and it's indicated in the report of the $36,500, including all four phases: the pre-design, design phase, bidding phase, and then the construction phase. And the construction phase is an estimate. The work, worst case scenario, we don't expect the work to take more than a week. And a local contractor we talked to indicated 3 days is what he would estimate.
And that was another thing I think that we discussed very much at length, is how to incorporate these consulting fees for major projects into the capital asset plan, because right now it's really just the cost of the work itself. And so we're going to be investigating that.
Yeah, for the really large projects that require some design work and bidding, there's more involved in this deal. So, the committee did, after review, recommend to the board that the board proceed with this project, and the first decision point is the proposal from BTC. I think the idea is to do the design and bidding work this calendar year, and then do the construction work as soon as the season begins in the spring, which has some logic to it in terms of getting a better price. Maybe Andrew might be able to speak to that more in terms of contractors wanting to have work lined up for the spring.
Sure.
And these would all be coming out of the special reserve fund, so
It would.
it's not budgeted for, but it's part of what we have in the reserve, which is over.
Over 600,000, yeah. It's not, we don't budget
600,000
specific.
includes the, I'm sorry to cut you off, the
Oh.
600,000 includes the 260 that was just
Mhm.
from
It does.
last year, last fiscal year.
It does. We don't budget specific projects in that fund, but we do appropriate the money as part of the budget appropriation process so that it's available for the board to spend.
And Jen, did you guys talk about which project out of the capital asset plan needs to be done first? The scheduling for those, I imagine you had.
We talked it like, it was a long meeting.
I can well imagine.
And what we tried to focus on were these first 3 years.
Okay.
But knowing full well that when you push everything out, a lot of it is to year
Yeah.
4, which is already a pretty hefty year,
Okay.
along with year 5. When you reach year 6, actually in the plan, the most recent one I had, it was 0.
Okay.
So some of these obviously
We're gonna look
either
at
we're
numbers.
not going to be able to do because we can't afford it, or we will be having to push them out.
Okay.
We did make decisions as to which ones. I mean, what we tried to deal with was the kind of here and now, knowing if we had the parking lot to deal with. Okay, so that we can afford that.
Okay.
And then
I think year 1 and 2,
look reasonable.
yeah, and even year 3, which ends up with very little in it, is
Year 3 worries me a bit because it has the, wait a minute, let me make sure I'm speaking correctly here. Yeah, year 3 has the RFID phase 3, material handler. And in order to accomplish that in year 3, we'll have to deal with space issues.
right.
And we don't have a handle on the cost of that.
And I would suggest
We
that-
requested that.
I would suggest that it'd be very difficult physically to do anything, to complete any kind of project like that by year 3.
That's the other thing. I mean,
Yeah.
this is like wishful thinking. You know, if we had all the money that we could, you know, could keep to this schedule. But I think, you know, in good faith, we should try to do, you know, what has been recommended
Mhm.
to us.
So the committee gave me some homework.
Okay.
So just to be clear on the automatic materials handler, the reason why we wouldn't be doing it in year 3 is because we don't have a clear idea of the workroom restructuring that actually prompted the BTC consultation in the first place. BCT said, it's kind of beyond us. Here's the stuff you actually need to do to maintain the building.
Right.
And didn't really touch the elements of the master plan that prompted the request in the first place. So we talked a lot about maybe we should get that information also, coming up with some ideas and definitely some general pricing ideas of how much it's going to cost to do the restructure that we originally thought we wanted to do. Not just keeping the roof on the parking lot nice, which are also important, but so there may be things that we can't accurately prioritize right now because we don't know if we're going to replace this element of the library, it makes sense to do the carpeting before that, but we don't know that.
And sometimes like,
Things kind of spiraled. It's kind of like, okay, if you
They
move
relate to
this,
each
then.
other.
well, if you
It's kind of-
expand the workroom, for example, that'd be a perfect time to recarpet that piece. I should clarify one thing, that the cost in here for the materials handler is for a smaller, I think it's a 2-bin unit that would fit in that alcove in there. And the question is if we, I think, the bigger question was, do we want to do something that fits in that alcove if in fact we have any serious intent to expand the room? So it became either circular or a domino effect or what, yeah, I think you used the word domino. So just,
But the discussion spiraled. Because, see, as soon as we mentioned moving parts of the library, then it says, oh, well, then that's the perfect time to do the carpeting. And it's like, oh, okay.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's going to take a lot of understanding of our funds and just what we'll be able to do.
Okay.
Can we have more? Rich? So in the end, we decided to go ahead with asking BTC to do the consultant work.
Okay. And so this is the first piece of their capital improvement plan that we can afford to do that's most necessary. Okay. Okay. Is there any other discussion about this? So then the motion from the committee then is that move to accept the summary report on site elements presented by Building Technology Consultants of Arlington Heights in its report, capital asset study from July 2017 is presented, and authorize Director Sheets to execute the following proposal from BTC for the parking lot consultation services. So that'll get the that'll get the ball rolling and start their design.
Mhm.
And then from there, we would, they
Yeah.
prepare the design and then go out to bid.
Yeah, the next decision point would be if the board has a choice. You can have a decision point when the design work is completed or when the bids come back in. And I think it's appropriate to have a decision point when the design work is completed in case there are options that are available that we should consider. So.
Gotcha, versus like, such as a complete redo or a partial redo down to stone or down
Correct.
to different.
I think
levels of-
VTC envisions not taking out the entire base,
Okay,
just repairing places where it's damaged and then going from there. But an option would be, in fact, and it might be worthwhile getting an ad alternate in the bid package. What would it cost to do X and Y, and then
Sure.
then we can choose between the two.
okay. And that'll come back to their committee, to
Back to
facilities.
facilities first, and
Okay.
then on to the board again.
Okay. So is there any other discussion on this then? Then I need someone to make the motion as read. The proper way to do that.
I'll move.
Okay, thank you, Joel.
Second.
And thank you, Rich, seconded by trustee Henders. So for this, we can just do a voice vote. So all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. All right, we'll move forward with this first step.
Okay, thank you, Brent.
Okay, future agenda items. A report from George on that.
I should just mention more in passing than anything else. Thank you for those that submitted names for the candidates for the facilitating committee. I appreciated that. We have gathered, how many names do you suppose we have, Kathy?
I didn't do a count.
Yeah, I've been forwarding everything I've gotten to Kathy, who's got this marvelous spreadsheet going. It's a big spreadsheet. I've been working with Rod Wright to coordinate having the vetting meeting where we go through all those candidates and come up with 10 to 15 names to invite as we work toward building the facilitating committee or team. And his dates this week and next week and last week have all been had conflicts on our end, or our dates have had conflict on his end. So we're working hard to get the calendar coordinated so he can be here and help us work through that process. So we hope to have that done in the next couple of weeks, I hope so.
Okay.
So we're trying to keep pushing on these projects so we don't get behind.
Okay. Something that's on our next meeting or event, so I should mention, is that the library is closed Friday, August 25th for a staff development day. You guys are open Saturday though, right?
We're open, yes, Thursday and Saturday.
Okay. And September is library card sign-up month. So. Okay, we'll have our regular meetings for the committees this next month if there's anything on those. So back to regular season from summer schedule. So. Okay. Anything else?
I'm not going to say anything that'll make this meeting any longer than it is going to be.
Excellent. All right, then I need a motion to adjourn.
All the trustees.
Thank you, Mike. Any a second? All right, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Looking forward to